Okay, working on some lighting in the back. Check out this little gem. This is how they connected it. All right, meet my first project truck. It's a Peterbilt 362, 1987. I bought it at an auction a few weeks ago. One of the reasons I really wanted to get this truck is because it has a big cam 4 in it. I really like those engines. I've heard lots of good things about them. They're also affordable to work on. Let's see if we can get under there and you can take a look. But it's not like it's an overhauled engine. You see up there? Yeah, it's got quite the hookup there. The exhaust is interesting, the way they hook that up to the turbo. But I wanted the big cam 4. They got a lot of, a lot of people have the cat motor and stuff like that, but those things can get so pricey. Just wanted to get something that I could put a lot of horsepower into if I wanted to, but not break the bank, not have a $50,000 motor. In some cases, that's what people are doing. But the body's in pretty good condition. Take a look up inside here. Used to be blue. Look at the door. Used to be blue. And the interior's okay. It needs some work. Need to find some of the dash stuff. And I need to find a piece that's in the back, in the sleeper. That kind of looks like that might be a little bit of a challenge to find. Whoever had it before, they painted it, but they didn't do a really good job. So I've been trying to figure out ways to take that off. And I saw the pitfalls of YouTube is that some of the stuff is a little old and things change. So I bought some of the aircraft paint stripper and tested it out on this and on my steps here. But they've changed, the EPA changed the chemical required, or that does all the big work in the paint strippers. So the paint stripper I bought, it's the same brand that these other guys were using, except they've removed this methanol chlorine or something. I don't know, it's some chemist's name, but that's no longer available. So I've got to figure a new way to maybe do this, because this was just for tips for anyone who's out there buying that stuff. This was 3 coats. I did this 3 times and that's all that's come off. So that's kind of disappointing. The other thing that I've really spent a lot of time working with is figuring out how all these jacks work. Normally you just pop the hood, pull it up, but in something like this, you're working with a jack system. Here's your cab jack, and then you have your lifts that go and push the cab forward, and these things right here are your locks, so it keeps the cab from going forward, and they all work together. And I'll show you how I actually jack that cab up in a little while. It's got a 9-speed transmission, but it looks like we've got to change that out. There's some interesting wiring on this that I've been working with. It had a 270-gallon Freightliner fuel tanks. I took one off. I'm going to take them both off, but I took one off so I could get better access under here. It's got an air leaf suspension. That's been fun as well. All these wires are all out here because that's what I've been primarily working on this week. So the airbags, I don't know who owned it before me, or how many different people owned it before me that maybe had a bit of a take in how this came together. But they put different sizes of airbags on it, so it's all over the place. It's hard to level it out, so I've got the new airbags to put on, but I'm waiting on some airline fittings, and with the way the supply chain is now, it's hard to get airline fittings. I ran them out because I've replaced almost every airline on this entire truck. I still need to do a couple things inside the cab and the trailer brake lines, but the frame, also the they did a cutoff and they didn't do, they did not do a good job. So I've got to fix that, and including look at the liner inside. It's not big enough. At least that's what I believe. This looks like about 12 to 14 inches on either side of the weld. So we need to change that out. I did put a new air dryer on while I was doing the airlines. Thought I'd go ahead and knock that out while I was doing that. Couldn't find a better place to put it, so I went ahead and put it there. Maybe there's a better place to have put it. I don't know. But we've got this tank still to take off. I'm gonna order new tanks. Kind of waiting. I'm gonna see if I can bring this into the shop, and then I'll be better able to paint this stuff up, because I'm actually gonna do the paint job myself, which is kind of a challenge. Let's go ahead and look inside here. I had a friend go ahead and try to get in the truck. It's the funniest thing I ever seen. He looked like he was trying to climb the rope. You know, have you ever seen kids try to climb the rope when they go? And they can't quite get up the rope. You know, maybe the chubby kid in class that just couldn't get up there. Well, that's what he kind of looked like. But he's not chubby. He's just having trouble. He's like dangling from this thing. And he was in the military, so I know he's been able to climb up and down things. But you can see that piece right back there. That's what I'm missing. I've got it on this side, but on that side I'm missing that piece, and that, I think, is really the only piece I'm missing. But I'll probably need some dash work because it's bubbled up. I need new windshield. I need new corner glass, 2 corner glasses, and this will be ready to go. But I'm working on all the wiring. I'm gonna put insulation in it. So rattle your teeth out of your mouth. So let's go ahead and shut this. These hinges, I think they're the same as the 379. Well, I know the 379 doors will fit, so hoping maybe the hinges will work too, which makes sense. Let's go ahead and jack this cab up. You can see exactly how much effort it takes to make one of these go up. Okay, first of all, see this big old strap right here? I saw on a lot of the guys said, hey, when you jack one of these cabs up, you best put a strap there, because I've seen where you jack the cab up and bam, it goes right down on the front of that windshield, and you have big problems then. So I've got that strap there, and it helps hold it back. That's what it's there for. I do need to rebuild this jack for sure, I think. And I do want to rebuild that jack. So there's some tiny leaks. When it goes forward, it keeps going. Okay, now when you're jacking up the cab, it takes a little time for it to get initially started. But then once it gets going, it goes pretty fast. So you've got this lever here, the switch. You want to take this switch and move it to the up position, and then you take your handle. I made this out of a piece of, I've got the actual jack handle, but man, that's no fun. So I've extended it out to give myself a little more leverage, and you just start jacking. Just start jacking. Oops. If it goes to the neutral position, you can't jack anymore. So you can start seeing it go up, and that's because these lift locks, the locks right here, have disengaged, and now it's going up. By the way, you want to make sure your doors are closed when you're doing this. Don't ask me how I know that. We got a red International Pro Star that we sold, and you can lift that hood with 2 fingers. Here we go. Okay, I'll show you the safety thing right here. All right, let's take a look at what's going to happen next. Now, we're not all the way up yet. You see that latch there? That latch will ride on top of that cylinder, and that'll be your lock mechanism to keep it from coming back down. Now, this is the time when I like to make sure straps are still on there good, because you'll see this. I'll hold this over here. Let me line that up right here. Latch comes back down. I'm still pumping. Watch, it starts. You can tell there's a little bit of a leak. She gets a little fluffy. Woo! And then boom. Now it's locked in, so I know it won't go all the way forward. Plus that strap's on there tight. Then you move this to the neutral position. And that's how you jack your cab up. All right, so one of the pitfalls of an old truck is the wiring issues, because you don't know, especially if it's 30 years old like this, you don't know who's been running the truck or who's had it before, and so they could have done 19 different things. So, you know, connections like this, those aren't going to hold, and you can see I can just pull that wire right out. So I've been going through and fixing a lot of the wiring issues with some, yeah, we'll just let that dangle, with some heat shrink and some self-soldering connectors, which is working out really good. But these wires were all mixed matched. I found a maintenance manual. Thank you again, Facebook 362 Peterbilt enthusiast group. They are so helpful there. I was able to get a manual, and I'm going through the wiring now. So like down here this week, I found this wire was located all on the other side of the engine, tangled up in a mess on the driver's side, and this, I think, is to my speedometer. So it, according to the manual, it has the right power, and it goes, tracing it back, it goes directly to the speedometer. So I think I've got that one solved. Then working on the tail lights back there, I found I didn't have a reverse light. So I found these cluster of wires and a power wire, that goes to what they call a reverse lamp switch. A reverse lamp switch. So I didn't have any reverse lights. Reverse lamp switch, which you have to have, you know. You have to have. So this has got a plug in it. So I ordered a new switch, and we'll hook those up. One's a power wire, and then when it goes in reverse, it activates the reverse wire, which sends a signal to your light. I also used this power wire for my air dryer, so that worked out. But that took a lot of time to trace all that back, because these wires are all dirty and it's hard to see the colors on them, according to the manual. But back here, this was absolutely messed, but you can see those lights aren't even gonna work because they don't have, there's no reverse light down here. I've gone through here finding wire after wire that's been broken or split, and going ahead and repairing those. And this right here is just a cluster. They had all these wires completely messed up. Now I found these, when they put these fuel tanks on, they just kind of rigged it up so it could get going down the road, so it could move. And this, I think, is my right tank. So when I get my new tanks, I'll be able to hook those up. Take a closer look at the motor. I hooked all these purge lines, the purge line up. I hooked this line up, and the air system seems to be working. It does have a small leak in it somewhere. I never even really knew what that was, but that is a brake foot brake valve, and I'm ordering a new one of those. With some soapy water, I can see there's a lot of leaking around there. But these lines right here, I basically ran the place out of fittings and hose, and so they haven't got any in yet. So I contacted Peterbilt when I came to this front suspension, because I've got to replace. You can see it looks like what they did with these sidebars, they just reversed them when they heard it popping, or they realized these bushings were bad or was a little loose. They just went ahead and reversed them, because I can see how this is all wore out right here and right here, and they did it the same on the other side, which isn't really good. And then the other thing is they replaced half the drag link. Not sure why they did that, but we're going to replace the whole drag link. So we can't accept it's a no-no. Now the biggest thing that I'm dealing with is this shifter linkage. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get out, and finding someone to do it, or at least around here. I'm trying to find who can help me put new bushings in here and get this thing all straightened out, but it is going to be a challenge to take out. One of the other things is, look how they set up my clutch cable. This clutch cable was actually wrapped around a fuel line. Like, man, clutch is hard to push down. Okay, so back to the shift linkage. The reason you got to replace this is it wobbles all over the place. It does not go into gear at all. So we've got to replace that. And there's 2 screws right in here, 2 bolts that are clicky. Some kind of hex bolt. And I hope those aren't stripped out at all. That would make my day pretty tough. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and show you how to put the cab back down. So that's kind of takes a trick too. Before I go on, these little knobs right here are how you bleed the system, and maybe sometime we can talk about how to bleed the air out of the system. But right now, we're gonna go ahead and switch this back down. So that's when it goes down. Now it is at, it's all the way tilted up, so it's not just going to drop down on its own. It needs a little help. So back in, and I kind of get it moving just a little bit, and then, which it just did, I lift that up so it slides over that locking pin. And we start getting ready to come down. And we keep pumping until now it'll start coming down on its own. It's a good idea to take this out. Just drop that down. See the locking mechanism? It goes up. And then you'll see. And when it goes down, give it about 10, 15, 20 seconds. See that lock goes in? You can hear it. And then come down and turn it to neutral. All right, well, that's our introduction to this Peterbilt 362. She does have a name. Did name her Pearl. Old Pearl. Pearl needs a lot of work to get back to her glory days, but we're gonna do it, and we're gonna get her working down the road yet again. Yeah, it's gonna take a while, but we're gonna get there.